Inner Expeditions podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Inner Expeditions podcast. My name's Aaron Harvey. Welcome aboard. This is our first live recorded episode. It's episode number 25 of the show and the first of this year. So welcome aboard. If you're tuning in for the first time on YouTube, it's great to have you. We do have the full backlog of the episodes, but they're all in just with a static picture file. This will be the first one recorded with video. So super exciting. Can't wait to share it with you all. Like I said, it's episode number 25, and the guest we have this week is Phil Gore, who is the current Australian backyard ultra record holder. You've probably heard about Phil if you're in the running world. If you haven't, a basic infill on a backyard style ultra marathon is a loop, a course that is a 4.4 mile or about 6.7 kilometre loop that's run on the hour, every hour for as long as you can go. It's also called a last man standing, so basically you run until you are the last person there and you will win the ultra marathon. So you basically start each lap on the hour, every hour. You've got an hour to finish the loop. If you don't finish the loop inside an hour, you are out. And if you finish the loop earlier, you can stop and have a break, fuel up, shower, change your shoes, whatever you need to do, but you have to be back on that finish line, or the start line, before the next hour sets off. So Phil currently has the Australian record. We're going to talk a lot about that, how he got started, where it led to, and what his sights are, and how he's continuously raising the bar with the ultra backyard scene. So buckle in, have a listen, have a watch. It's great to have you on board, and let's have a look at this one and see where we go. All right, man. Phil Gore, thanks for coming on, man. It is good to have you on the show. I know it's taken a little bit of logistics, working out, getting our schedules aligned, but really worth it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Look, I know it did take a little bit backwards and forwards. Obviously, you've got a pretty demanding training routine as well as full-time work, I think, because you're a firefighter, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a physically demanding job in itself, let alone the amount of volume and hours you're putting into running. So how do you find that time, managing your time with, obviously your family life, work and running? I know sometimes you run to work and all those sorts of things, but yeah, how does that go for you?
Yeah, I think it fits in really well with my job. So initially, I've always been a bit of a runner, but I really got back into it when I first got into the fireys, just as a way to keep physically fit. And I ended up moving quite close to where my station is, which is about 5 k's away. And when we moved, I just started running to work every day. My car sat there for 6 months, and I hadn't turned a wheel on it, and it came up for my rego, my insurance and that to be renewed. And I'm just like, why? Like, why renew it? I'm not using it. So I'm just like, I can just continue to run to work, and sold the car. So I've still got a car between me and my wife. So she uses it most of the time, and I do my little runs to and from work. So yeah, it fits in really well. So I'll wake up 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, sometimes earlier, get a good, decent run in before work. And it's just because it's part of my commute, I don't really feel like it cuts too much into my time. And then same thing coming home just at the end of the day, it'll be a shorter run at the end of the day, just about 20, 25 minutes just straight home. So yeah, I can do, up to 30 k's on a work day and not even feel like it cuts into my schedule that much. Like if I lived a 20-minute drive away and I was, driving into work, that'll be, I wouldn't notice that cutting into my time. So it's the same sort of thing when I run. Just running to work, and it's just part of the day, part of getting to work. And we're pretty lucky at work as well that we do get allocated gym time. So quite often, instead of going into the gym, I'll just go out the front of the station and I'll just run laps. sometimes I've run up to 2 hours just doing a little 400-meter lap, just during that gym time. And so, yeah, it fits in really well. I can run up to, like, on a 180k week. It still doesn't feel like it takes up too much of that family time. Like, I'm still there for the kids, still there for the wife. And yeah, even on the days where I do those long runs, I kind of time it that I'm back at home by around 8 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock at the latest. So I've still got the rest of the day with the family and that, so works well.
Oh, that's pretty good. I mean, yeah, it does work well. The fact that it's kind of part of your commute to work and home, because I know. And how does it go with the daily thing? Because I know I was reading one of your blogs a little while ago, and you were sort of talking about you started with park run, and then obviously you had time off from running when you were younger, and then you started doing park run, and then a ways of sort of increasing and beating your PBs in park run was sort of running that 5 kilometre a day. So is that kind of where it all started this time around for you?
Yeah, so yeah, discovered, um, it would have been City to Surf in 2014. I ran that event, the 12K, and then I was just like, oh, I really enjoyed that. Got a bit of a kick out of it, and it's like, where's the next run? And I was looking on Google trying to find when the next sort of fun run was, and this park run thing kept popping up, and I didn't think too much of it. It's like, oh, that's just like a little community event. It's not like a race sort of thing that I'm after. But yeah, couldn't find any races. So I'm like, well, I'll go give this park run thing a go, and yeah, rocked up, and it was just a really welcoming community, and I was kind of hooked on it from that first run. Um, and yeah, sort of kept going along to that for a bit, just when it timed well with my work and things like that. Because obviously I do work a lot of weekends. Um, and then it got to the end of 2014, and I'm like, I was quite hooked on the parkrun, and I wanted to get better at it. So that's when I started my 5k a day thing. I'm like, well, if I run 5Ks every day, then surely I'll get quicker at it. And I use parkrun as sort of um, my gauge to see how well I was doing, and then just during the week I'd run easy 5Ks or do intervals or something like that, and then yeah, go to parkrun and see how much my time had improved over the week. And I think with a lot of people as well, when you first get into running or first get back into running, you do notice like significant improvements each week, until you kind of get to a point where it's a bit harder to improve. There's only so low you can get your time. But yeah, just over the first 6 months of doing that 5k a day, my time dropped from like 20 minutes to, I think it was about 17 minutes. So I was pretty impressed with that, and just wanted to keep at it, keep improving. And yeah, so my PB today sits at 15:37. That was about 2 or 3 years ago I did that. But yeah, I can still run a decent time, sort of under 17 minutes. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I just saw something I think you posted recently where you just got back under 17, and it had been a little while
Yeah, so
because of everything you've been doing.
yeah, a lot of my focus lately has been on the really long stuff. 24 hours onwards. So I still get to parkrun every week, but it's more of just like an easy run. It's a social thing. It might be I've done a 30k run and I just bookend it with a parkrun at the end there. But yeah, last Saturday I went out to parkrun. I'd only done a 7k run beforehand. I was feeling good, and I thought, yep, I'm going to go and give it a good crack and see how quick I can go. So I was quite happy to see I still had a bit of that speed there, and I could get under 17. And so that was my fastest time in just over a year. So November 21 was the last time I was that quick. So I was happy with that.
It's pretty cool. It's a good feeling, hey, when you get
Yeah.
that, that sort of chance to have a go. And like I know it's always a tricky one because you start off running and you're super keen to, for me, and I don't consider myself in any sort of athletic shape at the moment with sort of 12 months off, but yeah, the time is kind of a big one when you start out, or it definitely was for me. And then as you sort of grow into a runner, you might look at extending your distances. That time factor kind of tapers off because endurance running, you back that off. How do you sort of manage that, your pace as well as, I guess, um, becoming better at the endurance side of things?
Um, Yeah, so I think the endurance is a lot more mental. So yeah, so it's a lot of time on feet, but it's not just your body that you're training. You're also just training your mind to deal with those long hours out on the road. Um, and yeah, like I'll still do intervals. During the week, I'll do at least one set of intervals. So I like to try and keep some of that speed there. But yeah, as you are running longer and longer, it does get harder to have that top end speed. Just because you don't have the focus there, and you might be at the end of a 160k week, and now you want to go and smash out a fast 5k. Your body's a bit sore and a bit tired. But for me, it was just like it wasn't about that speed anymore. It was just about getting along to parkrun, having that catching up with mates, have that community feel, but still be able to go and have a good run. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's not so much about, I know you see a lot of marketing about sort of, beating yesterday, and I speak to so many people that are about, I ran, my PB was better than yesterday's, and they're kind of, always looking to improve their time every run, which, isn't good for the long game, I guess, because, you just sort of setting yourself up for maybe an injury or something like that. So it's about managing that, keeping enough in there. But I guess majority of your works are pretty sort of longer, easier runs than smashing out like high interval sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, I was definitely like that in the beginning. Each week I went to parkrun, I wanted to beat my PB. And as I said, yeah, there was a lot of improvement in that sort of first 6 months. But yeah, now it's just about how does that parkrun fit into my training schedule. So, if I've got a 35k run I need to do on that day, or I'm going to do 30k's before I get to parkrun, and then I'm going to do a fast or fastish parkrun to finish it off. And it's just about seeing sort of how much energy do I still have left in my legs after I've already run 30k's. Or, it might just be an easy week, and I might just go along to parkrun as an easy run, and just, as a recovery. So that week it's not about any speed or anything. It's you still want to tick the legs over, but take it a bit easier. So, and yeah, it does I do get times where I want to go out and do a quick one, like I have just done this weekend. So I'm in taper at the moment, so I'm not doing big distances. So my body's feeling nice and fresh. And for me, that was just like, I just want to go and do a fast one, and just kind of see what shape I'm in heading into a couple of races I've got coming up. So
Yeah, because I think I've seen that you are, tapering off just to let your body recover because you got another couple of big races coming up, right?
yeah, so I've got Delirious, which is in 3 or 4 days. So that's 100
Is that
miles.
the 200 or the 100?
So
200
it is
mile.
a 200-mile race, but last year and this year they've brought in a 100-mile option. So I'm just doing the 100 miles.
Okay.
And then in another 6 weeks after that, I've got Hurdy's Front Yard.
Yeah, which is the big one. I've sort of seen you, beating records and going nuts with that. And I don't want to sort of get to that part of it, but I guess transitioning from that, you had the 5K a day thing going on, which is where I'd sort of heard about you on the scene and started following you, on the socials and stuff.
Yeah.
Was it the 5K a day? Was that a plan to then lead into endurance stuff, or did you kind of along that journey decide, okay, I'm going to look at sort of
No, the
really sort
endurance
of
stuff
stretching some
was,
endurance stuff?
yeah, the endurance stuff was something I never thought I would be doing. I didn't start out thinking, oh, one day I want to run a marathon or run an ultra marathon. I was just like, I just want to get quick at 5K, so I'm just going to run 5K each day. If you had told me at that point that one day I'd be running, 24 hours plus, I would have just laughed at you and said, no, that's not something I want to do. I don't see how that could be fun at all. But yeah, it just kind of grows. Like the reason I did 5Ks a day, obviously that's the distance of parkrun, and I thought if I can just do that each day, I'll get better at running 5Ks. But I just wanted to sort of instill that habit in me of no matter what's going on that day, no matter, I might have had a really busy day at work, or I've got a lot of stuff to do at home, or I might not be feeling the best. I'd still find that 20 minutes to half an hour to get out there and just run. And I just thought I'm always going to be able to find time for half an hour to get out there and do that run. And I just thought if I just commit to it every day, then yeah, it'll just form that good habit, and I'll become a better runner over time. And yeah, it wasn't until kind of 4 years later, I got bitten by the ultra running bug, and that was my very first ultra. Was just because I had a free entry, and so it was for the light horse, and I could have done a 3 hour, a 6 hour, or a 12 hour. And like, well, I'm not paying for it; it's free. Like, I might as well just do the longest. And then even if I can't finish it, I've done a 6 hour, I've done a 3 hour. And the thing that appealed to me about it was you can't really DNF a 12-hour run. If you go and run one lap and then stop and you can sleep for the next 11 hours, you're still getting closer to that finish line without even moving. So my goal going into that was to run at least the first lap and the last lap, and whatever happened in between, just take it as it comes. And I just discovered on that day that I can run for 12 hours continuous. And that's kind of where it started for me with the ultra running stuff. But as I said, I only got into it because it was a free entry. I wouldn't have done it otherwise, and I wouldn't have ever dreamed that I'd be doing stuff like this today.
Yeah, and there's just that little something that just scratches away at the surf, and you think, oh yeah, I think, yeah, and then it just opens that next set of possibilities, where you're like, okay, how can I take this up a notch?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you just
Yeah,
discover what you're actually capable of. So I ended up running 120, I think it was 123 or 126 Ks that day. And yeah, I never thought I'd be able to do that. I kind of had in my mind, maybe, I'll see if I can crack the 100. So yeah, to go 20 Ks beyond that yeah, I don't think I had that in me, but you discover those things about yourself.
yeah, that would have felt pretty good though to do that, like go in with sort of no
Yeah.
expectation, and then manage to push it. And like you said, you had no expectation as long as you finished the first and the last sort of lap. I mean, where sort of along that race were you thinking, okay, like I can, I'm going to have a bit more of a dig at this than I thought?
It was probably about halfway through. Like I started out at a pretty conservative pace. A lot of people who I would normally beat in a 5K or a marathon event were, taking off ahead of me. And I was just like, I wasn't worried about what anyone else was doing. I was just sticking to a consistent pace that I thought I could maintain. And then, yeah, getting about halfway through the race, and these people that have gone off ahead, they're now stopping for longer breaks or they're dropping out completely. And, I'm watching the tracking and I'm slowly like picking these people off like one at a time. And I've gone from like 10th place to like top 5 and then top 4 and top 3. And it's like, well, hang on, like I'll be, yeah, in contention for podium here. The first place runner was still about 20 Ks ahead of me. So that was pretty unrealistic to try and catch him. But it was the other people was just, I've got him in my sights and I can just sort of give me something to work towards, and I catch up to that person and I'll, then go for the next one. And so I ended up finishing second in that event, which, yeah, from coming from like a 5K to marathon sort of background to getting second in a 12 hours, I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, like you say, yeah, just having that next little person in front of you to think, okay, that's going to spur me on to push that bit more, and get it
Yeah.
done. And I especially like what you said about, yeah, running your own race. I mean, that's so crucial. I think for a lot of people is just not having that comparison in your mind to begin with, and getting, tricked into running too fast at the start, or, messing around with your pace, to suit, what else is
Yeah.
going on out there. That was
Yeah, I
great
kind of
advice.
saw it as like a tortoise and a hare thing. Like I'll let these guys go off and
Yeah.
run really fast, but they're going to have to stop for a rest. But I'll just keep going at a pace that I think I might be able to hold, and just plod away. And yeah, as I sort of got towards the halfway and closer to the end, I thought, yeah, I might actually be able to push this a little bit more and catch a few people up. So
Start reeling those guys
yeah,
in, yeah. So from there, obviously achieving something like that must have lit something to go, okay, what's next? And I'm sure by this stage, things started popping up on the ultra scene in WA. The ultra series WA is pretty incredible. So no doubt, yeah, something was sort of turning up next to sort of scratch that itch or that potential what you're looking at?
Yeah, so it's funny. It wasn't like I finished it and I was instantly like looking out for the next run. But it
Okay.
did make me realize I am capable of these sorts of runs. So this was in 2019. I didn't do any other sort of long runs that year. But then COVID hit the next year. And so I'd done that 12-hour, still gone back to doing those 5Ks and focusing on the shorter distance. And then when COVID hit, parkrun got put on hold. I was like, well, now I'm not running to, do these park runs anymore. And so I just found myself running longer, running further, spending more time with it. A lot of places are closed down. I've got more time on my hands. So just running, more and more, and not worrying about, I can't run too much because I want to be in shape for parkrun and not be
Yeah.
too worn out for it. And then, so it's kind of a bit of a blessing in disguise, and it kind of, steered me towards running that longer stuff. And then the first event back after things started opening up again was Birdie's Backyard, and that was in August of 2020, and that was another event where I didn't have to look at it and go, right, there's 100 miles or 200 miles, and I've got to start here and finish over there, and get really overwhelmed with it. It was just like, well, I'm just running one lap at a time, and I'll just keep going until I can't anymore. So that side of it really appealed to me. The same thing with like when I did the 12 hours, I'm going to get to that finish line. It doesn't matter how fast I go, but even if I'm stopped, that finish line is still moving close towards me.
Just sort of taking the burden of
And
expectation away from just getting out there and having a
just
go.
not overwhelmed with it. And like if I was to do a 100-miler point to point, I'd get halfway and have to stop and pull out, and I'd feel like a failure, even though that might be more than what I've run before. But whereas with the 12-hour, you can stop and then start again and stop and start, and you still get to that finish line. And with the backyard, it was just keep going until you can't anymore. And even though you're pretty much guaranteed a DNF, you're still pushing yourself to your limit. And I was just like, well, as long as I don't just pull out because I just can't be bothered anymore, I just wanted to push myself until my body and my mind couldn't go anymore.
Yeah, and it's all about the learning yourself again, and that mental sort of aspect that you spoke about before is like learning yourself. Okay, what am I willing to push myself for? How was that, I suppose, when compared to what you thought it was going to be? How did it sort of unravel, and then you sort of cope with what sort of came up with that?
Yeah, so I went into it thinking, I could get to 24 hours. Like running 6.7 Ks in an hour, it's pretty achievable for most people. But it just becomes a challenge when you got to do that over and over and over again. I mean, it equates to like 8 minutes 30 per K. You can walk like 75% of it and just jog the rest in. So I felt fairly confident that I could get to 24 hours, and then that's the point I thought that the sleep deprivation and all of that would start to get to me. And so I was just thinking, if I can get to 25 hours, that'd be pretty good. That'd be like one more hour than what I thought I could get to. But got to sort of that stage, and the field had filtered down to, I don't know what it was at that point, maybe 6 or 7 people. And I'm thinking I might be in with a shot here to podium or to take it out. Just not get too ahead of myself, but just take it a lap at a time. It's just, you just keep rocking up lap after lap, and you see the other people drop out, and it gets a bit more exciting. It's like, it's getting to the pointy end here, and just keep going. And so I got to 39 hours in that one. But the last probably 4 hours were laps that I probably didn't think I could do at the time. I'd started to have issues with my ankle. I had a physio, fortunately, was there. She came in and strapped it up and gave me a bit of advice, and I still keep pushing through those laps. So just to get through those laps, when I thought that my race was over, even though I
that does a big thing for your
Yeah,
mental
yeah.
game, right? Yeah, like you sort of,
Even though I
yeah.
technically DNF because I wasn't the last one standing, I still really feel like I'd achieved something and, pushed myself to somewhere I didn't think I could go. So,
Yeah, and you've got the those next set of questions. Okay, like this is where the mental game really comes in, because you're then dealing with management of pain and injury and all these sorts of things, right? That are sort of popping up at those sort of
yeah,
stages of those sort of
yeah.
distances as well.
And yeah, I learned so much from that run. It's probably the run that I've learned the most from. I went into it kind of a little bit unprepared. I was just, trying to wing it. And that's kind of the way I approach a lot of my sort of races. Not too much planning, just kind of working at a rough pace of what I should run at. But now from that, I've developed a really good plan, not just for the lead up to the event, but for the event itself. I'm very specific with when I'm going to eat, when I'm going to sleep, when I'm going to have a shower, all these bits and pieces. I write it all down and just gives me a guide to follow. And yeah, just learnt so much from that event, just coming into it completely unprepared and just realizing that there's a lot of things here that I can change. And yeah, I can push myself well beyond that 39 hours. Even just the little things like taking my laces out and swapping them with elastic laces, because that just makes changing shoes a lot easier. I didn't change my shoes at all in that first backyard because just the thought of untying my shoelaces and tying them back up again was just too much hard work. But now elastic laces, you just slip your shoes off, slip them back on again. It's easy. So it's all those little things, those little 1%ers that can make a difference.
Yeah, I bet. And yeah, lessons learned, and then taking that into it was Herdies again
Yep.
the next year. Yep. Because there was Herdies, and then you've got Birdies at Herdies front yard and Birdies
Yep.
backyard. You competed in both of them in 2021, or was it just the Herdies that you
Yep.
competed in?
Both of them in 2021. Yep.
Herdies front yard.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And you took it out in
Yeah. So
2021.
Herdies 2021. So that's where I did 48 hours. That was my first win for the backyard. That was a new Australian record. And just crossing that finish line, it was like all this work I've put into this run, all the training, all the preparation, all the planning, all the systems that I'd set up. It had just all paid off. And I was so stoked to cross that line, as the last one standing. And I still learned stuff from that event as well. Like it wasn't perfect. But yeah, I learned something new with every run that I do, and I, make changes to my plans and, implement them into the next runs, and, or I might think of something new to try, and implement it. So yeah, went on to Birdies where I broke the Australian record again, did another 3 laps. I got to 51 laps with that. And the same thing again, just crossing that line for the last time and just knowing that all of that training and preparation has paid off. It's just a really good feeling.
Oh, it must have been super satisfying in so many levels, because you are breaking not only your own personal best, but Australian records, which is just absolutely incredible, let alone plans coming through, like putting plans together and executing plans, dialing down your nutrition, all of this sorts of thing. Because there were some pretty big names on the scene that had been sort of pretty strong in the ultra game for a little while, that you were sort of starting to sneak past. And yeah, I mean, some of the tactics, like you say, I think it was one of the ones, might have been Birdies, where you were in second place, and then I think the other guy who was in front dropped out, and then you just smashed in like a 16, like a crazy lap for the last one, just to show that, you still had some legs there. I don't know if it was a tactic to play cool a little bit and
I
drop
just
off
think
the
I had a
pace
lot of
I mean, that was
unused energy there. So with a backyard, you're never in second place. You're always equal. Whenever you line up to that start line each lap, you're always equal. But yeah, the other guy, so Michael Hooker, he was looking like he was going to keep going. So in my head, I'm going to keep going. And then, so when he told me that he was going to drop out, I was like a little bit shocked, and I try to talk him into doing another lap, and he's like, no, that's it. I'm done. And because I had in my mind was anticipating that, this was going to go well into the third night, I've just got all this energy left, and I'm just like, right, I'm just going to do a hot lap here. And I just I was so just like elated, like just knowing that I've kind of won it even before I've finished that lap, which is probably a bad place to get into as well because if I run too hard and trip and hurt myself and I can't finish that lap,
You won't finish it either.
then none of us win. But yeah, just having that energy built up and yeah, just wanted to do a quick lap and yeah, just see how far I could
But
push
yeah,
it.
you'd had the mindset to go longer than what to go probably longer than what
Yeah,
you were going to. So you were playing an even longer
yeah,
game than what
yeah,
was actually
and it just
playing out.
shows you like how
Yeah,
much your mind plays a part as well. Like my mind was thinking I was going to have to keep going, so my body was prepared to keep going, and yeah, still had a lot of energy to go and run that, even though like a few laps before I'd kind of been struggling, had a few minor issues going on. My ankle had been playing up again, not as bad as the first year, but yeah, after the run and went to bed and woke up the next day, my ankle had swollen up, and so I probably didn't have too many more laps in me after that anyway. Um, but yeah, mentally I was prepared to keep going. So
yeah, and like I see that distance where from doing the backyard thing, you are, I guess, you're limited as to like how far your opponent can go. So, and like you said, you'd planned on going a lot further, but you'd probably been cut short a little bit because with no one else to race against,
yeah, so
you
if you
figured,
are going to be the
right?
last one standing, you are limited by who else is in the run with you. I mean, it's a really good format for if you're getting into ultras and you know your personal best might be 12 hours or something, and if you're entering a race, there's going to be people going 40, 50, even 60 hours plus. So like somewhere between that 12 hours and 60 hours, you might find your limit. But yeah, when you get to the last one standing, you really
Yeah,
are limited by that second person. So yeah, when birdies last year, 2022, when it was me and Aaron Young, and like we're good mates, and we'd had a bit of a chat, and he told me he wasn't able to go too much longer. He would just like he said he'll keep going as long as he can, but he just doesn't think it's going to be too much longer. So I changed my tactic thing, and I instead of just running at my pace, I dropped back and I ran with him, and just talk to each other as we go around and keep motivating him, and because the further that I can help him get, then that's going to help me get further. So we ended up doing
yeah,
so I did 54 that time. So he knew that I had
yeah,
the goal of beating my record. I wanted to go over 51, so he helped me get to that and beyond that. And
yeah,
yeah, it was just both of us helping each other because yeah, when it gets down to those last two, yeah, one of you is going to be determining when it finishes. So
yeah. And like for um, finding out about yourself running that sort of distance, I mean, for me as an onlooker, I remember watching. I think it was Hurdy's when you sort of beat the Australian record, I think, and then you just made it look so easy. So you just, oh, this guy's just a machine. And everyone I speak to, about sort of you coming on the show, they're just, that guy's just an absolute weapon. He's a machine. But more recently, you're sort of gone from the 5K a day on your Instagram handle to Phil Gore, ultra runner, and I've been really enjoying sharing those insights more on your blogging page where sometimes you're really not enjoying it. Where do you go? Because I know for a lot of runners, it's a different place. When you sort of hit that dark zone, where do you go and get through that sort of those dark sort of
yeah, so with
phases in your
the
runs?
backyards, I just bring it right back down to the basic of just focusing on that lap. You might be having a really bad lap, and you just got to get through that lap, and then you can stop and reset, and then try again on the next one. Um, but yeah, like I will remind myself that this is how I felt in other runs. It's normal to feel this way. Um, I felt this way before, and I've overcome it, and gotten a lot further. I think back on my training, and all the Ks and paces and stuff that I've done in my training, and knowing that I've done that, just sort of gives me that bit of motivation that no, I can do this. I can keep going. It's I think your crew is really important as well. You need your crew to know all this stuff about your training as well, so they can sit there when you're saying, no, that's it, I can't do another one. They can come and remind you of what you're capable of. But yeah, at the very core of it, just bring it back to the basics. Just take it that one lap at a time. If you're having a bad lap, that's fine. As long as you finish it within that hour, reset, start again.
And during that time, because you've got your dietitian, strength training, and the volume of Ks you're putting in. So yeah, it's telling yourself like, okay, I've done the work. I'm as ready as I can be to be here. It's just a matter of of getting out there
Yeah,
and pushing
exactly.
through, right?
A lot of the race is decided before
Yeah.
you even get to that start line. But yeah, just got to think about all that preparation you've done. Now you just got to get out there and execute it. Just, I've written my plan down. My plan will go well beyond what I think I can do. So I think my last plan went up to 130 hours. This is when the world record was 90. So I'm just planning well beyond that because I don't want to get to that 90 hours and then, have only planned to that and then be like, oh, well, now what? Each lap, you just follow that plan. Right now, my plan says I need to eat this, so I'm going to eat that. My plan says I need to run at this pace, so I'm going to run at this pace. It's not super rigid, obviously if it's telling me I need to run this lap at a 40-minute pace and I'm not feeling like I can do that, obviously I can change. And if I run that lap 50 minutes, that's fine. Or if it's saying I need to eat a particular piece of food and I get there and I really can't stomach it, but I can swap it out for something else. It is flexible, but it is really good to sort of have that guide and you can anticipate what's coming up. So you might know, oh, well, in a couple of laps, I'm going to be eating rice. So then your body's kind of preparing itself ready to be able to eat that rice instead of, getting in that couple of laps and then your crew saying, here, you got to eat this. And it's like, oh, hang on. No, I'm not ready to eat that meal. So yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to that thing.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
visualization. Yeah, a lot can be said for that. So things
yeah,
aren't quite so unexpected if
yeah.
they happen, in
I think
advance or
it's the same
whatever.
with
So yeah.
like I compare it to like my training plan as well leading into these runs. I've had periods where I haven't had a training plan and I'm just like, oh, I'll just wake up and see what I feel like doing on the day. And I'd almost never get a long run in because it's like I'd wake up and say, oh no, I don't feel like doing a long run today. I might do it tomorrow. But whereas if I have it planned, it's like I know, okay, in 5 days time, I've got my 30K run. And when you get to that day, you wake up and then you just know, yep, okay, that's it. I'm running 30Ks today. And you don't really kind of question it or, mope about it. It's on your plan. So you got to get out there and do it. So that's it.
What
Yeah.
it is, so that's what it is, yeah. And during this whole time, I mean, because with sort of, well, I think I worked it out with like your 54 laps. That's like 360 kilometers. So that's, I mean, that's up there. I mean, that's just crazy. Even for people that that are runners that know the endurance game, it's crazy. Let alone someone that doesn't run at all, just completely blowing their minds of
Yeah.
human
And I don't
possibilities.
even really look at the distance too much. So
Yeah,
my watch, when I'm running these backyards, it'll tell me the distance of that lap that I'm on. I never look at the overall distance. Like I'm always going to have a rough idea in my head of what hour I'm up to and approximately like, when you get to 24 hours, you've done 160 Ks and things like that, but it's not
yeah,
something I focus on. You just, take it lap by lap and, all I see on my watch is, okay, I'm 3Ks into this lap and I just know I need to do another 3.7 Ks to finish that lap and then I can, prep for the next lap and things like that. So it's not till I get
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
And
not till
the
I get to
beauty
the
of
end of the event and work it out and it's like, oh, that was 360 Ks. Like, but whereas if I was to sign
unpack it
up
all.
for a 360K run, I would just get really overwhelmed by that and be like, oh, that's a long way. Like, am I ready for this? I don't know. But yeah, just signing up and not having a goal, you just, as I said, you just look at the Ks of the lap that you're on and don't think about the overall distance.
Yeah, well, I've seen like other, and this is even like world class, ultra runners, like sort of A to B runners, where you are going from like spot A to spot B. they really struggle with the backyard style ultra of just running the same lap because they just can't get their head into the same
Yeah.
scenery or running a loop where they could run 160, 100-mile race, 200-mile race, no worries because the scenery changes the whole time. But different mindset, obviously,
Yeah.
seeing the same
I
course,
think to a
every
point you
hour on
need
the
to
hour.
fall in love with boredom. You need to get used to that monotony. Um, but for me, I like, um, like the predictability and the consistency, knowing what you're going to get each lap. The only thing that really changes is the weather is going to affect it, and the time of day. So, whether it's light or dark. But otherwise, yeah, you just get used to doing that course and you kind of, yeah, I think you just have to kind of fall in love with it. Like you just really enjoy that 6.7 Ks and each sort of, there'll be landmarks. Like you'll get to a landmark at like 1K and it's like, oh, we're at this bit now. So, we've done a K sort of thing. I really struggled with the satellite champs in the fact that it was just along a long straight road. Um, there was barely even a corner. The road was exactly the same surface the whole way. The scenery didn't change too much. So I found that monotony kind of getting to me a bit more. Whereas something like Birdies, it's like, well, you're running on a kind of a dirt road and then you're going through a caravan graveyard and then you're going through like a marshy area with a bridge and then you've got some sort of paddock area and you're going through some swampy areas and you've got different parts to sort of focus on. Yeah,
It
but
does mix it
whereas,
up a
yeah, the
bit, yeah.
satellite champs, especially at night, and you've got your headlamp, and it almost felt like I was on a treadmill and just on a dirt road treadmill, just doing the same thing and not getting, you don't have any landmarks to kind of, except for the halfway point. That was the only thing I'd look forward to. I'd be like, okay, now I get to turn around and go the other way. Um, but whereas, yeah, something like Birdies or
Yeah,
Herdies, you're like
definitely.
looking forward to, okay, the bridge is coming up next, or, I'm going to be passing the playground next, so I'm going to get to the wooded area next, or, whatever it is. But you've got something to look forward to. But yeah, I can see how people who are used to doing those sort of point to point and having that consistently changing scenery and stuff might struggle. But for me, it's the predictability and the consistency. I really enjoy that, and it's a lot easier to plan for. So I've got a 100-mile race coming up this week, and trying to plan that has been a lot more difficult than planning for the backyards. But I'm trying to, like, as I said, with that, I'm not looking at the overall distance. I'm breaking it up into the aid station. So I'm only looking at, a 10 to 15K section at a time. But yeah, it's going to be a very different style of running for me. And even just, some of those legs are going to have a lot of elevation or it's going to have a lot of sand, which is going to affect my pace. And so trying to work out what pace I should be running each section at has been a bit more difficult. Whereas, backyard, I can say, I can pick a pace and I'm going to know exactly how to, get to the finish within that 40 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever it is I've got planned for that lap.
Yeah, so it's almost sort of switching into a different game altogether. Yeah, headspace wise. I'm just going to go back because you were talking about the World Championships, and I know during that sort of COVID phase when you were, you know, um, kind of beating your own Australian record, you had an invitation to go to the World Champs. And I think back then it was in America. You
Yeah.
actually
So
had to go to America to do it,
Yeah, so
but
every
it
second year
happened.
it's in America, and then every year in between they do what's called the Satellite Championships. So it's more of a team thing,
Yeah,
where it's country versus country, and they're competing on their own. They all start at the same time, but they're all in their own individual countries. So it's more of adding up the total laps of you'll get 15 runners in your team, and you add up the total laps of how much your whole team did. So we did really well with Australia. We got third. That was out of 37 countries. And then because I won that, that gave me automatic entry into the individual world championships, which is in October this year. So I've got that on my calendar, and I just need to sort out my flights and things like that. But yeah, I'll be there for that.
yeah, that's awesome. Especially after not being able to go that sort of couple of years
Yeah,
ago
I
when you had that
I
first sort of
tried to
chance, right?
get there. It's funny because I could get to the US, and but coming back, I could only get back to Australia by coming through Melbourne or Sydney. And at the time, with WA's border controls, it meant that I'd be stuck in Melbourne or Sydney until something happened with WA borders, and just not having that sort of reliability of being able to get back to Perth just meant I had to had to pass on it. But just knowing that, I'd still make that my goal for this year, and I'd be even better trained and better prepared for it. So.
Yeah, and you did so well. So I think you guys finished third, and again broke the Australian record of 76 laps, or they call it yards over there, which is, I think that's about
509
kilometers, right?
So
yeah, so it's just doing it all over again. That would be
so
rewarding as well, right?
With that, so when I first kind of got into the backyards, the world record stood at 75 hours, and I remember looking at that thinking, that's a huge number, but it's possible. Like, someone's done it, so maybe I can get there. And then, so to do 76 hours or yards and just being that one more than what the world record was, I was just like so stoked for that. Although the world record's now been lifted to 101.
Yeah, and that was in the
the
same
guys in Belgium,
competition, right?
and they both stopped at 101.
Yeah,
so they probably, at least one of them would have had more left in them. But when I see the world record get bumped up, I don't think, oh, that's just further out of reach now. I think, well, this is what's possible. Whereas, not that I'm ever going to get a marathon world record, but you see the world record get beaten, and then it's like, oh, it's even more out of reach now. I'm never going to get there. But it's the opposite with the backyard. I see that someone else has achieved it. It's like, well, hang on, that's possible now. Like, these people have done 101 hours, so why can't I do 101 hours? And I just need to go somewhere where,
something to aim for. Yeah, move the bar just that bit further for you to aim at, right? Yeah, because knowing that it's humanly possible gives you that sort of mindset to go, okay, someone's done it, so why can't I? Well, it's pretty incredible so far, man. I mean, like, just even that is just insane. And super stoked to see what's coming up later in the year. But you're running your 100-miler in a couple of days.
Yeah, so that starts on Thursday.
Delirious West, right? So is that kind of part of, for you? I mean, that would almost be part of a training program, or are you kind of, like, you're tapering into it, you'll do this and then have a bit of a break and then...
Yeah, so with Delirious, I've watched it unfold online the last few years, and I've just been like, oh, maybe I'll do that event next year. Like, it always looks like so much fun. Like, all the runners and all the people that are volunteering, just really enjoying themselves, and just really achieving great things. But it's because it's been so close to Herdes, it's like, well, I kind of had to pick between the two, and Herdes was always the one that won out. But then they've brought in the 100-miler now, and I'm like, well, 100 miles 6 weeks before the backyard, then could work as a training run. Like, 200 miles would be too far, but 100 miles is probably manageable. So if it was any closer than 6 weeks, then I probably wouldn't do it. But I think 6 weeks is just that right amount of time. So I think I can run that and try not to injure myself. I will allow myself to DNF if, I'm going to do physical damage to myself, and just,
because that can inhibit.
Yeah, so Herdes is still my A race, right? But I'm not just going to pull out because I can't be bothered, or I'm getting bored, or, whatever.
But no doubt there's some lessons there, because different format to the backyard game. How are you sort of preparing for that than the normal backyard stuff?
Yeah, so it's going to be a bit different in terms of crew. So my wife Gemma would normally crew for me at all the events that I go to, but this one she's not going to be there. She has to work. So I've got my mate Chris Martin crewing for me, and I'm sure he's going to do a great job. But the crew setup is going to be very different, because it's not having like one location, like with the backyards and the 12 and the 24-hour runs that I do. I can set up a gazebo, set everything up how I want it, and I know I'm going to be passing it every hour or every lap or whatever. And you can really make that like a home, whereas this is like going to be working out the back of a car, so have everything in the car, and then Chris has to drive and meet me at the next aid station, and he's going to have a rough idea of what time I'm going to be there, but he's not going to know exactly, and you're not going to yeah.
Yeah, and you'll be out of your comfort zone in that little bit as well, where it's not the regular setup
Yeah,
that you prefer or that what you're used to, and you're going to have to probably wing it a bit more than what you would normally.
yeah.
For that sort
But
of
then again, it's
style
all a
of
learning
event.
experience. So there is a lot of stuff, obviously, from the backyards and the 24-hour runs that's going to transfer over. But yeah, it's still going to be a completely different style to what I'm used to. But as I said before, I've tried to. I can't break it up into the laps or the hours like you do a backyard, but I can break it up into those checkpoints. So I have a goal pace for that leg, have a plan of what I'm going to do at that aid station, and just try and maintain that bit of predictability there where I can control it, and then don't stress too much about the stuff that I can't control. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So
Yeah, be in that moment. I mean, it's incredible how relative running is and the mindset is to the day to day. It's being in the moment, being
yeah,
present, not sweating on the stuff you can't do anything about. And I know Delirious is a great race. I've had some friends run in it and do well, and they just talk about it so highly of how well it's organised, how much fun it is. So yeah, I mean, whole new sort of style for you as well. But obviously, sort of the backyard thing is still your focus. I guess maybe afterwards it might change things for you, but this year you've got the world champs coming up, and it's going to be an individual race, so it'll be totally different because with the last satellite world champs, it was Australia, so you're running with all your teammates, and I think it was
yeah,
it
that's
came down to
correct.
like you and Ryan
Yeah,
Crawford.
so he
Is that right?
got to 75, and I did the one more and got
Yeah,
76.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and
Yeah,
he's man, he trains pretty hard as well. He's a bit of a weapon on the trails. But then obviously springboarding into the individual world champs will be kind of you just against
yeah, yeah. We should have a few people
international
from Australia
competition.
going as well. So Ryan Crawford obviously will make the list. Rob Parsons, who did 73 hours,
Yep.
and there's a few others who are on the list who may or may not get bumped off, just depending on how other events around the world go. So yeah, it should be really good.
Yeah, and I think that's
Yep,
one organised
yep,
Lazarus. Like
that's
he
correct.
organises that one as well. Isn't it the big dogs? It's the same thing, yeah. Because I was a bit confused between I sort of saw the World Championships and it was on over there, and then the sort of satellite one kind of threw me a bit and then I sort of realised, okay, it's just
Yeah,
each country does it in
yeah,
their country, but the same sort of time frame. Yeah, but I mean, Laz
yeah,
is just incredible with the Barclay marathons and all of the backyard ultras. They'd
yeah,
be pretty cool guy
yeah.
to meet too, I reckon, and
Yeah, we had
programs with.
a Zoom call after the satellite
Yeah,
champs, and just getting to chat with him then was pretty amazing. So yeah, it'd be really good to go over and meet him in person.
yeah. I get super in. I don't know if inspired's the right word, but watching the race directors during the races speaking to the runners, and I think Sean, with the WA Ultra Series, you might see offcuts of footage from the backyard races, and he's talking to the guys when they're thinking about pulling out and that, and the advice and the
Yeah,
inspiration he gives to the
so
guys. It's powerful stuff,
yeah,
And
Sean at
Laz would
Birdie's
love.
backyard the first year. Yeah, when I was thinking of I can't do any more, he came down and gave me a little pep talk, and that pushed me through a few more laps. So he can be really good like that. There's actually a photo of me at Hurdy's, and I don't know, I can't remember what he's saying to me, but I'm sitting down in the chair and I've got a smile on my face, and he's sitting next to me talking to me saying something, but yeah, I can't remember what. But I do remember that I was probably having a bit of a hard time at that point in the race. So for me to have a smile on my face while he's talking to me, he's probably saying something pretty good to keep me motivated. So he can be really good like that. And he just
Yeah,
loves seeing, other people achieve their goals, whether it's, it doesn't have to be the person who's winning it. It could be the person who's never done an ultra before, and now they've come down to a backyard and they've done 10 laps. That's 67 Ks, and just seeing people achieve their, more than what they thought that they were capable of. He's just really passionate about that. So it's good to have him as a run director or race director for the Ultra Series. So we're really lucky in WA.
Yeah, I love seeing it because, on one hand, like before the race, they're talking it up and how you're going to go through these levels of pain and suffering, and they really sort of sell the race up. But then when it comes down to it, and people are breaking down and going to places they've probably never been to before, or they're getting what they went into the race for, or it's completely different. Just watching them with everyone through the whole stage is super impressive. So looking forward to seeing what's coming up for you this weekend, and as well as in the World Champs. I mean, that's going to be
can't wait.
Super epic.
Should be good.
Yeah, thanks, man. Hey, look, I think that's pretty good. I'm probably going to round her off and just say a huge thanks for coming on the show. Huge fan. It's been great to watch it all unfold. I've been listening and following a lot of the backyard ultras sort of live, telling everyone I work with, driving them crazy, and my family and friends about these incredible feats that are unfolding with you and some of the other guys leading the way. So very
thanks so much for having me.
For coming on the show, man. Thank you so much. No worries, man. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll wrap it up and we'll get this one out as soon as possible because it is my first step for the year. So, super stoked, man. Thanks a lot. Good luck this weekend. I know I'll be watching, and extra good luck for the World Champs coming up in October, man. Thank you.